quorum. We will call the January 24th, 2024 board meeting of the Louisville Metro Waste Management District to order at 5:31. Pete, before we move into any business such as approval of minutes, we have some new board members serving, attending their first meeting. We probably should introduce them or let them introduce themselves before we get into this meeting.
Yes, so we do have three new board members. Sean Killeen, who's representing the Jefferson County League of Cities, Andy Reynolds from the waste industry, and he is with WM, and Alex Davidson, who will be the district representative, and she is director of strategic initiatives for this food literacy project. So, Sean, do you want to introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, thanks, Pete. My name is Sean Killeen. I'm the mayor of the city of Woodland Hills and the representative for Jefferson County League of Cities. I've been a mayor for about 4 years and then involved with the city as a commissioner prior to that. And I also work in marketing for a long-term care pharmacy headquartered here.
Cool. Andy Reynolds, a little bit about yourself. You've been around for a while. But...
Sure. Yeah, I think most everybody here knows me. But yeah, Andy Reynolds. I'm with WM. I'm the Government and Community Affairs Manager for WM in this region of the country, but I'm a Louisville native. Been with WM since 2015.
And Alex Davidson, you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. I'm Alex Davidson. I am now the executive director of the Food Literacy Project and also a resident of the Beechmont neighborhood in District 21. And I'm excited to be plugging in here and get to know you all. Thank you.
So welcome all of you.
Yeah, welcome everybody. I'm Bob Schindler. I'm the chairman of the board, a citizen of the Hikes Point District. Deethra, want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Deethra Shipley, and I represent the Urban Service District.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
We also have Robbie Howard, who is the assigned to the Waste District from the Jefferson County Attorney's Office. Hey, Robbie, and we also have Deputy Mayor Nicole George is joining us tonight, as well as Director Kern, Director of the Louisville Metro Department of Public Works. So if anyone else wants to jump in, feel free.
Okay. First item of business is the approval of minutes from the October 25th, 2023 meeting. Realizing that we have three people that may or may not have been to that meeting. Is there any, well, first of all, do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved. This is Detroit.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion, additions, or subtractions, corrections to the minutes? Okay, hearing none, we'll go ahead and do a voice vote approval of the minutes. All those in favor of approving the October 25th minutes, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? No. Hearing none, the minutes have been approved. Thank you. Pete, next item, budget report.
So the budget report is kind of doing well. If you take a look at our revenues, we are at 566,000 in revenue for the year to date. That is a fiscal year starting in July. You will also note that it says our budget use, which is actually how much money revenue we received, is only at 13%. And what I would call to your attention is that we have a carry forward of $2,887,000. So that's why that 13% is there. We're running about right, although we will have soon additional license fees coming in. I will tell you that they're coming in higher than anticipated. So we are doing well. Personnel expenditures, we are right on line. Operating expenses, because they take that carry forward and put it into contractual services, it kind of skews our numbers there. But other than that, we are doing well in our expenditures. And so one other note that I wanted to bring to you was that the carry forward at our last meeting was $3,294,000. In interim, there was a discovery that there was a miscalculation in those funds, and the actual amount was adjusted to $2,887,000. So I just want to make you aware of it. It was there's nothing nefarious about it. It was just a calculation mistake that was found and corrected. Everybody should have received a budget packet. So if you have any questions, there wasn't any expenses over $5,000 that had not already been previously approved. So if anybody has any questions, let me know.
Are there any questions? Okay, thank you, Pete. No correspondence to the board on the agenda. Action items?
So the first action item is to bring a item to you again for members that have been here for a while. You know, we've been discussing anti-litter education and outreach campaigns. And we've had some presentations from Field Trip, who is our vendor and who conducted a last outreach campaign for us. The in the packet was also that last presentation, I think a video from the last meeting that you can go back and look and see what we're looking at. So really, we're at a point where we want to make a request for funds. And we went back and we really looked hard at the metrics. And I think that this was a point of discussion. We spoke with several groups to see what their thoughts were. And really what it come down to is it's a very difficult thing to measure. And so what we feel like that we will do is, number one, we'll do a perception study, periodically. We will track the number of litter complaints. We will track the amount of litter that we are picking up. So any and all metrics that we can find, we'll try to utilize, and hopefully we can squeeze out of there something that can give us guidance on how we're doing. And some of the things that we have found is that you got to continually do litter messaging. One campaign is not necessarily going to change the attitudes and opinions or perceptions of the community. So really what we need to do is sustain a education and outreach campaign yearly so that we can keep this in front of people, and hopefully through time, people will begin to change their attitudes and perceptions. I know that Karen was working on a perception study. I don't know that it's done. I did view it, and I think that there was going to be some changes. But in all, I think that we're pretty much ready, and we would love to get some feedback. If anybody has any questions about the presentation from the last one, we can pull that presentation back up. But if not, I would ask Karen, do you have anything to add to what I said?
I don't think so. I think the idea of trying to get public perception through a survey and do that like annually. I mean, that's I think the only thing we haven't really included in previous presentations. I I would like to do that. I think it would be helpful to kind of keep that measurement going. And I do have a draft. It's not exactly ready for sharing, but we can certainly send it out and let you all give feedback before it's live. But I think that's the only change from previous presentations.
Let me ask this question. I don't want to throw a monkey wrench into your plans, Karen and Pete, but since this is an ask from the board to appropriate $125,000 towards this tonight, right, Pete?
Yes.
Are the 3 new members, are you all comfortable on voting on something like this, or would you like another to put this off to the next budget meeting so you can review the presentation that Karen had made before, if you haven't already had a chance to do that? I kind of hate to throw people into the middle of this and say, you know, first thing we want you to do is approve $125,000. You all have any feelings on that?
I have some questions about it actually, because I did join a previous meeting where I think there was a presentation by Field Trip, and I also reviewed the presentation. My question is really more about the messaging and how are they coming up with messaging to speak to the particular audiences that they're delivering it to. You know, is this something that they're thinking like is just typically things that are important to people, or are they actually collecting responses from people who live in those areas to see, like, you know, what are their values, what motivates them, how do you incentivize behavior change? Because that's, you know, for any education or marketing campaign where you want to change behavior, you really have to speak to, you know, what really motivates people.
Sharon, do you want to take that? I can.
Well, I guess I can start. Well, the Field Trip has come up with their campaigns through extensive discussions with staff, and Carl has been on that in those discussions, and some of them I think we had other maybe advisory committee members, but so they have not done any surveying. I would like to do that just to gain a baseline of perception. I know the previous campaign that we already did, we definitely considered it an awareness campaign. Not so much I mean, we wanted to give people the option to, you know, see that their behavior, like they could change their behavior, but we did like a call to action where you could learn more with the click, but it wasn't so much, that particular one wasn't so much behavior change. And then this next idea, I think, is also this clean together. And I think that comes from these extensive conversations with us. And, you know, they listen to what we say as far as issues, and try to wrap their heads around, you know, what kind of message do we want to put out there. And it seemed that the next one is more of a, hey, we're in this together kind of thing. And we want you to see the work. There's work being done on our end, and we also want help too from you. So yeah, and for me, I know education, you know, involves what I do is a lot of behavior change. So So it's not lost in this at all. But I don't know that what we have done so far can really be said that it is like a behavior change campaign. You know what I mean? There's just so many things that have to go into it at the same time. And one thing we keep landing on is that we just want people to use our services. So that's part of the big thing on education is like people understanding the services that they have and how to actually use them. Pete, you want to
Yeah,
add?
it could be reaching back to the first campaign. There was some outreach to the community. I believe that there was some interviews, talking with some of the uh, collection people. I would have to go back and refresh my memory on that, but I do believe in the first campaign, there was outreach to the community and a lot of research done before they started this campaign. Right now, we're not at a point where we are paying them anything. And they have continued to work with us to a certain degree. But, you know, in this new campaign, we can certainly continue to take a look at the public perception and research into the feelings. And to go back to your point, Sean, I think it's going to depend upon where you're located in the community because perceptions are totally different from east, west, south, central, just depending upon where you're at. So to get those attitudes and what works in one part of town does not necessarily work in another part of town. And so I think that we've got a pretty good grasp of a lot of that already through the previous campaign. So I don't know if that answered your question, but I do understand that it is very important to understand the community that you're going to be trying to change the behavior of.
Yeah. I mean that helps some. I mean, specifically like on this slide, it notates that we're trying to inspire behavior change. So I do kind of remember that the last campaign was more awareness based, and particularly awareness campaigns are almost impossible to measure. But with something like this, I think I'd almost like to see some kind of feedback done ahead of time to particularly in like high priority areas to make sure that we're speaking to values and motivations for people like that that live in the area.
So I believe to do that, we're going to have to get into a little bit of, I mean, they're working right now for free to do some of this stuff. So I believe that we're going to have to at least have some kind of a commitment before we can get much more research into that regards. So it's kind of like the chicken and the egg. Which one are we going to do? Enter into a contract or have some things off the books. So just wanted to keep that in mind.
Pete, when you referenced, or maybe it was Bob that actually mentioned the presentation from the previous meeting, was that presentation a proposal from Field Trip, or was that just sort of a summary of what they've done with Metro so far? Or
Well, again, working offline a little bit for them, we have met with them several times and trying to utilize some of the information that we got from the previous campaign, trying to come up with something to present to you guys, some proposed cost or thereabouts, so that we had a little bit of an idea of what we were going to ask for. So yes, it wasn't an official proposal, but it was an informed, I guess, presentation that we prepared with Field Trip. So I hope that answers you.
it does, and I would like to see a copy of that if I can, regardless of whether we vote on it tonight or not. I apologize if it was sent out and I just missed it.
Yeah, it's not. Go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say the email that I had sent had a PDF and a link to a YouTube video so that you could see the latest presentation. What Sean might be interested in is previous things that I can also send from when they did their research stage and everything, as like when we first started working with Field Trip, and I'm happy to share that if it would help. But yeah, Andy, if you might have missed it, but that particular presentation does have like a concept for the next campaign. But they have done other presentations sharing results from the what we would call the It Adds Up campaign that they did last year.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, if there's any way that you can resend that, I would appreciate it. Would the next step, I mean, if the board votes and approves the $125,000, is that $125,000 annually or $125,000 total for the 3 to 5 years?
That's pretty much an annual is what we would anticipate.
Okay, that's what I thought. I just didn't want to assume.
It's much more expensive than I would have ever thought. But there is a lot to doing one of these campaigns. And if you really want to get a deep reach into the community, you have to try to hit them in a lot of different ways.
So just to clarify, since I'm kind of jumping in here, we would be voting tonight on whether to move forward with a contract, but are there still some details to figure out as far as the details of the campaign? I just want to make sure I'm understanding correctly.
Yes.
Okay. I did watch the YouTube video, and I liked the idea of like they're, like we're working together, the employees and the community, to do this. I felt like maybe the messaging was a little bit subliminal in some ways. But I think there were even some ideas that were thrown out that I think could strengthen that. So,
That's awesome. Obviously, whenever we have to have a little bit of a commitment for them to commit to us. Anytime that we're having those meetings, members of the board are absolutely invited to attend if possible. And I think that through that, you'll learn a little bit. And I think Bob's point about, hey, we might be throwing something at you because we have been working on this for a while. And maybe you guys have not had that opportunity to really dive into it a little bit. So I fully understand if you guys are not prepared to make a vote tonight.
I mean, is there any value or benefit to Public Works if we were to propose approving a $125,000 a year as a concept, and to try to get the ball rolling with them to try to get a proposal working?
Well, before we can actually get the ball rolling, we have to have a PO. We have to make sure that all of that lines up. It'd be very difficult for them to, I think in concept, yes. And I think if I'm reading you right, telling them, hey, we can start discussing, we are committed to doing something at about $125,000. It's seeing where it goes, continuing a preliminary discussion if they're willing.
Yes, I mean that was where I was going with it, just to not slow everything down, completely, but try to give some of the new board members an opportunity to take a look and learn more about it.
Yeah, I would hope that even though we might not know the details, we pretty much in my mind need to commit to doing this annually, whether or not it is with Field Trip, whether it's the development of the campaign. I do believe that these campaigns are going to be critical and must be an ongoing process for us to start changing the mindset of the community. So whether or not that we have the details, so at some point we're going to have to make that leap so that we can get into really building this idea, this concept out. I think Deputy Mayor George, you had your hand up at one point. Did you still? Okay.
I'm good. I put it in the chat. Thanks.
I can't see the chat. Okay.
And we've worked with Field Trip before as a vendor. Is that right? So they're not brand new or anything.
Last year,
Yes.
yeah.
Mhm.
Did we end up with Field Trip with as a result of an RFP, or was this just
Yes.
okay? Yeah, that's what I thought. Well, I guess it comes down to board members present. If you all are comfortable on approving this 125,000 to keep it going, or do you want a little bit more time to gather information? To come up to speed.
So just one final clarifying question. If we, or when we vote on the 125,000, it's not just a commitment for 125,000, it's a commitment for a 3 to 5 year commitment of roughly 125,000, right?
I don't think it's a commitment. No, we can only do 1 year at a time. So,
Okay.
but in concept, we are looking for that longer term continuous commitment.
Okay, that makes sense.
And there would be nothing to prevent the board from saying, we're not satisfied with what has been accomplished so far. We want to look for another vendor. It's not locking us into anything.
That's what I wanted to make sure that we weren't, going to commit to actually 400, or 375,000 instead of
Yeah.
325.
One thing I would also add is that when we do this, it won't be the last time that you guys hear it before there's a campaign that comes out. We would be coming back as we develop and work on this campaign with Field Trip, and obviously hoping that you guys would become involved in that. So it's not, we're not absolutely committing to something. If we say up to that 125,000, if we come up with something that's less expensive, that's our choice. We're not committing that they're going to get all 125,000. They may, if we are happy with what the proposal turns out to be. One other thing that I would add, generally in their previous contract, they had so much money for the development of the campaign. And it's more like a milestone that we would definitely do that development. Take a look at what we got before we move forward.
Pete, I want to ask a question that I assume you wouldn't have this in here if it wasn't already, copacetic. But it seemed to me that in the past and by the past I mean a number of years ago, there had been issues with the state Division of Waste Management with litter abatement grant funds being used for education. I'm assuming since you have that $25,000 match from those grant funds that's now okay with them.
Yes. If you go back a number of years, there was all across the state, there was a audit of litter abatement grant funds. Louisville was not an exception to that review. And it really came down to several things. And the biggest one being things that Brightside had done in recruitment and education that kind of was called into question. We met with them for 6 months. Cynthia Napek, I think, was the director of Brightside at that time.
Yeah.
We went to Frankfurt. We met with them. Almost everything was approved moving forward. They don't have a problem so much with education, as long as that education is directly related to, anti-litter. It cannot include things that include like recycling or other messages that are important. But this messaging for this grant has to be specifically for the prevention of roadside litter. Understandable. That's what the grant is for.
All right. Thank you. Would anybody like to, or does anybody have any other questions or comments of Peter or Karen? Would anybody like to make a motion to approve these $125,000 funds? Well, I'll go ahead and at least make the motion that we approve $125,000 to be with field trip for development of the next stage of our anti-litter or litter awareness anti-litter campaign. Is there a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any additional discussion from board members? Okay, thank you. Since this is a budgetary expenditure, Pete, would you call the roll?
Sure. Alex Davidson,
Present.
is that was a yes?
Oh, yes. Sorry.
Okay. Andy Reynolds,
Yes.
Peter Shipley,
Yes.
Sean Killeen, sorry.
Yes.
Okay. It's the screen's jumping around. Did I miss some? Oh, Bob Schindler. I forget.
Yes. Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, thank you all very much on that item. Next item under action items, appointments to the advisory committee.
Yes, it's some of the terms have lapsed and it was time for us to renew. So what I've done is put together a list of reappointments. We also had a few people leave the board. I think there still may be one or two that are in that process, but at this point, we'll go ahead and reappoint. One was, excuse me, Brian Slade was representative for the waste collectors. That person that will represent the waste collectors will now be Robert Lee, if you guys approve. Robert shouldn't be too much unfamiliar with most people on this committee, as he was a board member for quite some time. The second one would be a replacement for Kedrick Stanfield, who would be a citizen environmental representative. And we have a person that has expressed interest, Corrine Greenberg. Corrine is a no waste ambassador, and that's how we became familiar with her, which if anybody doesn't know what a no waste ambassador is, Karen conducts. Well, Karen, can you tell them what the no waste ambassador is? We'll get a plug in for it.
Yeah. It's basically a volunteer program. And we're just trying to have people that are interested in reducing waste and sharing information and, just get the community excited about that to help us out. And so we've done that 2020, where they are 2021 graduates, 22 and 23. And now we've got a new class starting. We recruit at the end of the year and do training at the beginning of the year. And we've had some really great ambassadors and volunteers, and Corrine is one of them. And I think it's great that she volunteered to do this.
So one other thing, if any of the board members are interested in being a no waste ambassador, contact Karen. She'll gladly sign you up. We just started. So Corrine is an environmental professional, more in the hazardous materials category of waste. She's a manager for the environmental manager for Carbide Industries. She's actually attended our boards, I believe, last year when she brought her son, who was looking at Eagle Scout, to look at community engagement. So she's not all that unfamiliar with our board because she's been. So is Corrine present tonight?
She was earlier, I think.
Okay, yes, she's there. Yeah, Corrine, do you want to add anything or introduce yourself?
I'm just pleased to be considered for this position. Like you mentioned, I'm an environmental professional. I do air, waste, and water management at my facility, but you know, like Karen said, the No Waste Ambassador was a good fit for where my heart is. You know, just trying to make it make sense, and everybody can do their part. So I'm glad to be able to help however I can.
Great. So the only other position I believe that, well, I won't go into, I believe May stepping down, so we'll just leave it at that. So right now, if we can have a vote, I guess, to approve the reappointments and new appointments, that would be great.
Also move.
Second.
We have a motion and second. As far as additional discussion, I might just add, I'm sure if Sean has been involved in this, and Andy, I know, has been involved in this. Alex, if you're not aware, the advisory committee is really the group of people that do a lot of the technical work for the board, such as adopting regulations. That's a good example. There's if somebody proposes making a change to regulations, there's a whole lot of research that has to go into that and how it affects which part of the waste industry and public, et cetera, et cetera. And we rely on these volunteer, basically, people to do a lot of the grunt work, the technical work, the research, the discussion, the yelling and screaming. And then that's brought to the board, and then the board gets involved. What it does, it's a group of volunteers that are willing to do a lot of work to make the job of this group of volunteers a little easier. We have a motion and a second. If there's no other discussion, Pete, is this a roll call item or voice vote?
It can be, yes, should be. It's an action.
Okay, go ahead.
So Alex Davidson,
Yes, and thanks for that overview, Bob.
Oh, sure.
Andy Reynolds,
Yes.
Deetris Shipley,
Yes.
Sean Killeen,
Yes.
Bob Schindler.
Yes.
That is a all yays. Oh,
Did you say, I didn't know if your sound blanked out or not? Are you?
oh, it was unanimous vote.
Okay. Thank you all. And Pete, on behalf of the board, extend the board's thanks to these people for signing up for this again.
Absolutely.
New business?
Oops. Jumping around. So if anybody's looking at our highways, you'll notice there might be a few pieces of litter that's laying around. We get plenty of complaints about it. It's something that we work on a lot. And while we do have a lot of cleanup programs and we continue to clean up, sometimes it's just a never ending cycle. Well, it is a never ending cycle. So a couple of things that we want to do. The first one is to work with LMPD to hire officers on overtime to patrol some of the major interstates for vehicles causing litter, including solid waste vehicles, not covering their loads or with bad covers or something that's just not right. So we want to do this. And our initial response when the meeting went out, or not, actually 2 or 3 weeks ago, was a positive response. We have since run into a little bit of a slowdown as it's worked its way up the chain in LMPD. And these funds would actually come hopefully from our Clean Collaborative. However, we can make this work with our funding. But it's been something that's been on our mind for quite some time. We tried to get the state DOT officers to do this. They didn't have the staffing. Previous times we've tried to get LMPD to do it. It was a staffing issue. So we're hoping that we're going to continue to push this issue with LMPD. And if we can get them out there actually looking and maybe pulling over a few people, I believe that the word of mouth travels fairly fast, and it may make a positive impact. So I think enforcement is one facet of litter abatement, and it's one of the lacking issues that we have is to pull people over. It's just not been a high priority. So the other thing is that we would do, and we've done this in previous years, is send a letter to waste haulers reminding them of the laws, requiring them to cover their loads, and asking them to ensure that their drivers are doing it. I know that there's been a lot of turnover in the industry, a lot of new people. So it's just a reminder is basically what it is. And I know that they're aware of it, but it's not just the main large haulers. There are actually 47 haulers in Jefferson County that haul smaller loads. And, you know, a lot of this could be coming from that direction as well. So I hope nobody gets really hurt by that. But the fact that we're going to send this letter out, but it is a general letter that would go out to haulers far and wide. Any questions on this? I think one of the other things that we've investigated, but we haven't got to, is to try to work on vehicle wreckage, which is a really difficult thing. And, you know, I believe that the law says that if somebody is involved in a wreck, and that vehicle is towed, the wreckage needs to go with the vehicle that is towed. And at least that's the way it was when I was a firefighter. We put everything back into the car. Right now, I believe some of the private haulers that are out there towing may not be aware or just don't do it. So it's a much more complicated issue than what it would appear. But, you know, that's another avenue that we're looking at to try to get out there because we do clean up a lot of vehicle debris. So if anybody has any questions or concerns about what we're doing there, I'd be happy to answer those if I can.
Pete, are we still using litter abatement grant money to fund litter pickups on the interstates?
In a roundabout way, yes, but most of that is done through the Clean Collaborative. We are doing four cleanups per year. The state also does those cleanups, but they only do them where they have mowing and during the mowing season as part of that mowing process. We do it during the winter time when there's no mowing going on. And I'll be honest with you, if we wasn't doing it, things would be 10 times worse than what they are. But it's very difficult to keep up with it. And sometimes, you know, and litter will typically show up more in the winter because people aren't out taking care of their lawns or their business lots. You know, they don't have that maintenance crew coming during the winter. So litter tends to appear to be worse in that winter time.
Yeah, I just brought that up because you know, I pound on this a lot, and I don't know how you make the general public aware of it, but a whole lot of public money that comes from taxes paid by residents of this community goes to cleaning up after residents of this community. When if you just didn't throw your coffee cup in the back of your pickup truck and then it blows out 2 miles down the road, we wouldn't be spending so much money cleaning up after you.
Yeah, I believe that one cycle around on the interstates themselves, maybe my number is a little bit off, but it's about 153,000 for once.
Pete, this is Rob. It's about 178,000 now.
Yeah, it goes up.
And for the month of December, our cycle, the contractor collected like 4,800 bags of trash just in that one cycle. So that's pretty significant.
Yeah.
Thanks, Rob. I think Deputy Mayor George has a hand up.
Thank you, Pete. I could not be more excited about this agenda item. So thank you for giving this attention. My one question is around the vehicles, the solid waste vehicles not having their loads covered. And the question I have is around quality assurance. Has there ever been any discussion around a quality assurance mechanism so that when the trucks and the haulers go to the landfill, that they're checking to see if it's covered?
Good question. From a SWIM's point of view, I think that we could probably do a little bit better job. I can't really speak to the private industry in that regards. What we do find is, particularly with our contractor that is out there picking up litter on the interstates, they tell us that a lot is coming from solid waste vehicles going down the roadway. And we hear citizens make that complaint as well. Solid waste is you get litter off of it, but you don't need to have it flying everywhere. And sometimes if a dumpster gets overfull, it can actually lift the cover just a little bit, which allows air to get in. And what's the first thing that's going to come out is your sheet plastic. So that's why if you've driven 64, which I do every day, it drives you crazy to see all the sheet plastic that lines that center and all the burning. But I can't really answer a whole lot. I don't know if Andy could make a comment on that, or if he would want to or not.
Yeah, no, I have no problem making a comment. I know that we police our own vehicles 100%. I don't know what the mechanism is for doing that for third-party vehicles. I don't know what level of authority we would have to do that beyond just stating to them that they need to cover, because we don't really have any authority to enforce that I'm aware of. But I don't think we would have an issue with reminding people. I mean, it's going to fall to a large extent on WM to help get that, especially that stretch of outer loop cleaned up. We already do that to some extent, and we send out cleaning crews along the roadway on WM property at outer loop as well, both internally and along outer loop. So we're already spending time and energy doing that. I think anything that we can do to make that process easier and more efficient is going to be good for everybody.
Okay, and so I just wondered if that was maybe a point of intervention. So it's great that LMPD is going to be out or could be out doing some enforcement. That's certainly important. But if we know ultimately where the destination is there a point of intervention at that destination? And then my only other question is around the street sweeping contract. And by that, I'm referring to the KYTC's street sweeping contract for the interstates. Do we have an update on that? Has that been signed yet? Because for anyone who doesn't know, we've been without a contract for quite some time.
So I'll let Rob get that one. Yeah, thanks, Rob.
Yeah, the latest update that I got was it was going out this month, but I have not heard back from them. So I'll double check on that.
It might be worth setting a reminder every other week to check in with them, because I don't know about everyone else, but so much of what I see is quite frankly litter that is there that could be swept. And of course, at this point, it's so heavy that they probably need to shovel.
Yeah. So the latest update was the contract should have gone out for the RFP December 16th, but they said with the holidays and vacations, it didn't, and it was supposed to go out, within the last week or so. So I'll follow up on that and be sure.
I think one of the with checking on, to try to enforce that at the point of delivery, which would be the landfill, I guess you could look at the possibility of periodically you'd have to dedicate a SWIMS enforcement officer to just station themselves for a period of time at the gate and check stuff that came in the gate. But then that ties up an officer for, a dedicated period of time.
That is true. 51 does have a thing in there about covering your loads. What I see is most trucks have covered loads. It is that come into the landfill. It may be that it's not a close fitting.
Yeah.
It's not suitable. And
Or-
if that's the case, it's more a litter issue that we can't really, we can't, I guess what I'm saying is we can't stop someone, effect a stop and detain while we issue something. So I think Brandon also has his hand up. Brandon Cohen.
I just wanted to chime in briefly as just a note, sort of technical note for you, Pete, as you look to implement all this stuff. In 2019, the Metro Council elected to make littering a civil violation. It was a criminal statute under the state law, and the state allowed city to make it civil. So this is something that is a civil penalty. It's not a criminal offense. It wouldn't be a criminal offense. But you might just refer back to the legislation that it enacted. It talks a little bit about how this is enforced through the Code Enforcement Board and otherwise. But police do have the authority to still issue these kinds of citations. But it just might be helpful to you if you're going through it to look back and refer back to the enabling legislation.
Yes, I am aware of that, Brandon. I have forwarded some correspondence to make some requests so that we can make sure that we're making LNPD aware of that. Yes. Nicole, do you still have your hand up? Or okay.
Anything else on this, Pete?
No, sir.
Anything else, board members? Okay, yeah, go ahead.
People have seen a truck riding around that looks like this. Has anybody's, I can tell you, I have seen several.
I've seen some close to it, but not that bad. Okay, moving on. Litter abatement program.
So we do receive, for those that don't know, there's a statutory grant. It's called the Kentucky Pride Fund, and they put $5 million aside each year. And what they do is they parse that out based upon grants. Litter abatement is a statutory grant, so it's not as though you have to make a grant application. What you have to do is submit that you want to be considered for that. And they allot the funding based upon the number of road miles and a formula that they have. And so Louisville Metro has averaged probably somewhere from the 370,000 to actually last year 420,000. That money appears to be high right now, and a lot of that is a result of COVID. And many of the counties use inmates programs to conduct this litter assessment, or not assessment, but collection. And a lot of people couldn't do that. So I'm only making the assumption, because I doubt that they changed the formula to benefit Jefferson County more, that a lot of people aren't out there doing it. So that's why our money has increased. What I'm concerned about in the future is if this money, more people start to do it and this money continues to go down and we're not able to do as much as what we have been. It started out at over $600,000 years ago, and it has slowly declined. So of this 410,000, what we have done is kind of given ourselves a loose budget of items. Starting from the low to the high. And I'll start from the low. We provide 6 litter collection personnel to supplement the city's Metro Clean Lab, which has 12. And what they do is they go around the arterials around the city. And I can't remember exactly what the number of miles is. Rob can probably jump up and tell me. But Rob, do you want to just jump in here on the Clean Collab, since you're the Clean Collab coordinator and I might mess it up?
Yeah. So we try to, what we look at, as Pete said, we do a lot of the major arterial roadways. Unfortunately, we can't get into every neighborhood. We try to accomplish 4 litter cycles a year with our crew throughout Louisville Metro, and it's a little under 1,100 miles per cycle. Last year we were actually able to do a little over 5 cycles. So, was it like 5,300 miles or something? I don't remember off the top of my head, but the crews collected over 15,000 bags of trash on those 5,000 miles of roadway. So it's definitely an effective program. I think that it's huge for the communities to, obviously to get the trash off the roadways, but to see that Metro is doing something about it. So having these 6 additional personnel has been huge for us, because the more people we have, the more frequent that we're able to complete these cycles. So it's something we definitely want to continue.
So the next item is the Waste Management District Anti-Litter Education and Outreach campaign that we discussed earlier. There is also another campaign called Stash to Trash, and it's a Bright Side campaign. And I believe that this is in conjunction with the state of Kentucky and Keep America Beautiful, if I'm not mistaken. So there was discussion as why do we have a campaign and why does Brightside also have a campaign? And we feel like that the more the merrier with this thing. What we do need to try to do is do them in a where they're not overlapping so much, so we continually have litter education material out to the community. We also looking to do T-shirts for safety and visibility of volunteers as they're cleaning these roadways. We can't supply a vest to everyone except for in the Cash for Trash program, where they have to bring it back. But when you get into the larger community-wide cleanups, a T-shirt is a visible thing, and it also promotes anti-litter messaging. So we've got 10,000 set aside for that. In Cash for Trash, some of you guys remember, Cash for Trash basically is for a certified nonprofit to clean along certain segments of roadway, and they get $100 per mile. And while we launched that last year, we didn't get a whole lot of people, but it's a great program, and we feel like that we just need to continue to plug the program and get the word out so that we can get this thing moving. I think we probably hit it a little bit late last year because a lot of the spring sports maybe hadn't went through, but yeah, we want to put that $10,000 for Cash for Trash, and then $4,690, which is remaining, that we need for maybe some extra supplies for this and that. Sometimes when it gets extremely hot outside, we need to supply a little bit of stuff for hydration to the crew. So that is an allowable expense, but that's not the only one. So really, that is basically what we want to do with the funds now that we've received the $410,000. They said they don't tell you that you've gotten the grant. They just send you a check. We received that early in January, so we have that for this calendar year. It's not the fiscal year; it's a calendar year grant. So this will run all the way through the December 31st. Where you'll see the reporting from the previous year's grant is in our annual solid waste management report to the state, which requires us to certify that we did spend the grant funds appropriately. And we also report on things that we don't pay for through the grant. So we have Goodwill has crews out there cleaning up litter. There's the agreement that we have with LDP, community ambassadors, street sweeping, because we can count 25% of the debris picked up in street sweeping as litter. And anything else that is taking place out there, we try to capture that. So we have a really big number at the end of it. But the one thing I did want to tell you, because we do want to be upfront, is when we certify our grant, we use the interstate cleanup invoices as a way for us to certify it, because it's the easiest one for us to do. Four of those and we're done. But we do honor the way that we try to do these things here. So if anybody has any questions about that, I'd be sure happy to answer. Brandon, do you still have your hand up as for additional question? Okay, thank you.
Okay, if there's nothing else on that, Pete, you want to Waste Management District website?
I'll let Karen jump in on this one.
Yes. So we had been hosting our site away from the Metro site, but we had some issues with that and ended up needing to change that. And for me anyway, it's better to have everything that I deal with through the LouisvilleKY.gov site. So it is now, the Waste Management District is its own department under LouisvilleKY.gov. So if you were on their main, the main homepage, LouisvilleKY.gov, there is a little drop down for all departments, and it is listed there, the Waste Management District. But I also have it in our Public Works left-hand side navigation to get to. And but anyway, even just a quick search online should take you to this site. I do have the meetings and any public hearings would be a part of that on a page there. So it kind of shows the regular schedule. And then I keep that up to date with links to the YouTube videos, minutes when they're approved, agendas and presentations when applicable. In some of the older meetings, I don't always have presentations or documents, but if you ever need anything that's not there, let me know. It was just a lot of info to dump into this page at one time. And then we have our board members and advisory committee members, which I will update tomorrow. And I have a link toward our education page. So we have some videos that you can use, share, watch, outreach programs. There's a form if you want to set up an outreach and invite us to come. And then some of our pages on illegal dumping, litter, the waste hauler licensing, things like that. And then documents like the 5-year plan and ordinances.
Any questions? Okay, thank you, Karen. Advisory Committee.
Bruce. Don't see Bruce at the meeting, so I can give an update on the Contracts Committee. It's been some time since we've reported, and obviously new members. The Contracts Committee is working on items that are listed in the 5-year solid waste management plan that would require a contract. One of those was the capture rate study, which I had a question today, Karen, if that had been finalized and awarded, which I don't know. And then we was looking at construction and demolition debris and what we can do to recover more of that material. We have started to work. We started to work on that and run into some stumbling blocks. So we continue to work on that in the background. The next thing that we're working on is a scope or a cost of services that looks at the cost of services across the community to look at specifically the areas that have subscription service and see if what we can do to see if they match up with what is in contracted areas such as home rule cities and urban services district, just to gather facts to help us make better decisions in the future. And that's actually the one that we're working on right now. It was discussed at the full advisory committee and has been pushed back down to the contract subcommittee at this time. If anybody has any questions about the contracts, it seems like this is one of those technical things that the board sends to the committee. You might just get a quick update. But what I would do is encourage anybody to attend those meetings if you really want to see the nitty gritty as to what is going on in that committee. So I think the next one is education.
Yes.
Sandra here.
I was gonna say, Sandra, do you want to chime in?
Actually, what we're looking on is how we can focus our education to make it more effective. And that tends to relate to all of the other things they've just talked to you about. We right now don't have a focus for our education that will reach the largest number of people. And that's what we're working on.
Sandra, any questions of Sandra or Pete on this? Okay. Staff report.
Okay. First thing is pop-up drop-off, which Karen is going to do, but did I lose my share? I did. Okay, does everybody see the screen again?
Yes.
The first item is a pop-up drop-off. Go ahead and take it away, Karen. Tell me when you're ready for me to move.
Yeah, this is just mostly for when I send this to council members, so everybody sees all the information about what a pop-up drop-off is. I know we have some new board members, so hopefully you're aware, but if not, they're just big recycling and large item disposal events that we do these throughout the county at different locations, mostly outside, like in the outskirts of the county, to try to help give residents some options that are a little closer to home when it comes to materials. If you go ahead and go on though, Pete, you can see across the top there, the categories that we accept at these events would be up to 3 electronic items, up to 4 tires, yard waste, as long as it's bundled like curbside, scrap metal, household recycling, junk as in large items, document shredding. We have a vendor for that. And then we partner with the sheriff's office for medication disposal. And we started in August partnering with Water Step for shoes for their program that helps give clean water to those in need. And so this is our main report for the whole year. I don't know how much time we have. I have a few things that are comparisons with years before. But I will say we had more participants than last year for whatever reason. But every year, bulky waste, electronics, and document shredding are always our top 3 as far as what people come to the events for. When they show up, we ask their zip code, and then we mark down what categories they brought, and that helps us track attendance, plus helps us gauge what people are using our events for. That one was this year's, but participants. So you can get an idea of how many people are coming through. We had some overwhelming events at U of L's Shelby campus there. But the other ones are more kind of our average, more closer to 500 or so. The 800 to 900 is a little much, but we handled it okay. Then that one just kind of helps understand for us to see, okay, how are people utilizing the various locations over the years? And then on the right-hand side, the various months, just to see if there's any trends when it comes to what time of year. This is our zip code map for all the events. So the stars kind of like show where the events took place. But I do have a zip code map for every event, so that, especially because the council people are involved in this too, they help pay for the shredding truck, and we want people to just be able to see where people are coming from. But I will say every event has someone coming from just about every zip code. People will drive across the county to participate in these events. And, but they're always, the higher attendance is always hovered right around where the location is. That's, typical. Is there another slide, Pete? Oh, that was just a comparison from, last year compared to this year, but it's kind of similar. Our big thing is though, we do, on the chart where the big chart at the beginning shows weights, some of those are based on averages, but some of them are literal weights that we get. But either way, we calculate a diversion rate. And this year, every year we've hosted these events, our diversion rate has increased, which is one of our goals. So I'm pleased to say that last year we got even more being diverted away from the landfill. So so 48.7% is pretty good.
One thing that I would like to add about this is the reason that this diversion rate, I think, continues to go up is because we're continuing to push the message that waste has its place and try to get away from the old idea of just throw it away. That a lot of people say, well, just throw it away. Well, maybe we got to get people out of that idea of just throwing it away and instead putting it where it can be reused or recycled. So I believe that that's the message that we present with these events, because we ask them to bring it in with their loads separated so that it can be quickly offloaded, and what we can recover, we can recover. So this is a great event, and this event is really started because of an agreement between this board and Louisville Metro government, the Department of Public Works. When we Metro government needed a vehicle, and so the board purchased vehicle for unstaffed recycling centers, and in exchange, Metro government, the Department of Public Works, agreed to conduct these events across the county. And it really has been a major, major success. And we get a lot of compliments on it. It's extremely popular. We now have more people, council districts asking us to conduct events in their areas than what we can do. So we're trying to move it around. But keep in mind that when you get into the center of the city, the Waste Reduction Center, which is open to all, is right there close to a lot of what's in the Urban Services District. Plus, Urban Services District has generally more services, particularly when it comes to the subscription unincorporated areas. So this is just a new avenue for us to be able to get people to get to disposal to make it more convenient. So I think that was, Karen, was that it for the pop-up drop-offs?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
I'll
I will
note-
say,
Go ahead.
sorry, I will say I am working on this year's schedule. I don't have it completely finalized, but we're looking at March 16th as the first date this year.
I was just going to note for historical reference, number of years ago, the district had an agreement with the landfill where one or sometimes 2 weekends a month, the landfill would on a Saturday host a free drop-off for the community. And that was one location that was roughly in the center of the county, but it was a long drive for a lot of people. And when the SWIMS people came up with this pop-up drop-off idea, it was, I think, a great idea because participation went way up. We're getting a lot more materials, therefore getting recycled. So I think this is a major success that staff has been able to come up with. Any questions or comments? Okay, Recycle Right program.
Okay, give me just a second because my slideshow. There we go.
All right,
Anyway.
this is me again. So several years ago, It's crazy how time flies. But we piloted the Recycle Right program. Diane Moon and I and another staff person, Jessica, that's moved on. But we did this as a pilot and saw great results. So thanks to this board, we were able to make this a full-time program. So full-time as in with part-time staff, but we have started it, and the first thing we did was have we picked 5 routes, 1 per day of the week, within the urban services district is where we've started, and we actually had those audited at West Rock. So our crews delivered that separately, and they sent that through to separate all of the materials and let us know what they saw. So just to kind of give us a baseline, and this is one of the charts. There's a lot to look at, but they took all the different commodities from corrugated cardboard down to tin cans, and then the bottom one is contaminants. So anything that didn't belong in the first place, that was sent to the landfill. And 89% was the recovery rate. So 89% of all the material was recycled into those different commodities, and 11% would have been the landfill. So actually, out of all our 5 audits, I think 89% was the lowest. So our contamination rate is not terrible at all. Tuesday here at 93%, and they just sent me some pictures of how the material had been separated. 90%, and you can see they let us know some of those top contaminants that they saw. And then I think on the Thursday and Friday routes, they didn't have any other pictures, but I had the charts that they gave us. So about 89% to 93% was the recovery rate. So again, not terrible, but through this program, the idea is to get some of those contaminants out of the mix, especially plastic shopping bags and wrap, things like that, that aren't necessarily contributing to the weight of recycling, but they can be a big problem at the facility because of how they get tangled up. And of course, what I don't have on here, Pete, is a picture of the tag. But the contaminants that we're looking at are listed here. So for example, our first small area within the Monday route, we have tags that our staff, they look in the recycling container, they're looking for either recycling that's bagged, plastic bags and wrap that they're putting in thinking they can recycle them that way, food and liquid, which is typically in a cart that's being used for trash, even though it's a recycling cart, styrofoam, which isn't recoverable here. Yard waste isn't on the tag, but we still have it separate, but they mark on the tag large items and then write yard waste. And then hazardous materials, because those would be like batteries and things that are flammable, which we definitely want people to know not to put in there for safety. But we showed participation rate, kind of gauging how many households are in the area and then how many carts did we tag. So that's basically how many people had their carts set out. The green, yellow, and red tags. Green tag is a way to know tag. So it's saying you're doing a great job, keep recycling these things, and it shows what's recyclable. The yellow tag says, oops, we found this item, and you check off what they found. It can be multiple contaminants. And on the back, it says, please only recycle these. And then the red tag is reserved for carts that are basically being used for trash, and we don't even want that to be collected with recycling at all. So we don't get as many of those, but they do come up. And then we work with our enforcement team on those, because if there's any real issues that they can help us deal with. But on these percentages, you can see the growth of, I like to look at the green tag rate. So we started out 40% of the participants got those way to know tags, but after the third tagging, 77% of them did. So you can tell that they were definitely changing how they recycled. And then you can see, I will say on all of our charts so far, the plastic bags and wrap are the top contaminant that we see. I actually did my No Waste Wednesday about that today, just because it's just so prevalent in all of them. But we have a little map for each one. This is my chart, my presentation. I'm just kind of tracking all of our areas. The routes are huge, so they can't get to a whole route. So we just separate it out by area. And when we've either do, if you move on to one, Pete, that has a Wednesday or a Thursday, they start out pretty good. So we didn't do 3 taggings because they actually, you know, they were already doing pretty good when it came to contaminants. So we want to be there. We want to say good job, but we don't want to linger if we're not going to get too much more of a result. So we're just tracking where we go, and we're trying to get through all these routes. We have 3 part-time people. We started out with 2. Our third guy started a few, or not last week, but the week before. And so we're able to do a little bit more. They're kind of getting the hang of working as a team of 3 now. And we are hoping then to stagger their off days so that we can add Friday, because they only work to be in the part-time schedule. We have them working 4 days a week. So that we just keep moving them around the areas that, or the routes that we started on. And they've noticed some things. They I think what bothers them sometimes is how many people haven't set out their carts, and sometimes they're pulling them out in the morning. So so sometimes they drive around just to see if some people are, you know, and they're noticing weather effects and everything. And I'm trying to encourage them that that's okay. You know, participation, you know, we use that number just to kind of see, but it is possible that they really did participate, but they just didn't pull their card out till after they were gone. Because our team is there from about 6 a.m. to, or I guess they don't get there till maybe 6:30 to 9:30. Could they work 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. If a, you know, if a resident is used to their truck not coming through till the afternoon, they might not pull it out right away. But the other thing I wanted to say is, Andy, thank you very much. I got his email today that we have some routes that we've been talking about adding on the opposite week when we're not recycling here in the USD. We are partnering so far with Waste Management, WM, to be able to tag some of their contracted routes. So so we can start as early as next week on that. And I'm excited to see how that goes, and just get in a different part of the county.
Karen, can I say something?
Sure.
I wanted to tell the board about a resident that came up to me when I was out there with the team doing tagging on Monday. That the resident came out and he was very excited that his tag improved from yellow to green. And he wanted me to know that he worked really hard to make sure that he had improved his tag score, and that he was watching out for his neighbors as well. And not only that, but a lady was driving by and she stopped me and wanted to know the rules to recycling. And so I was able to give her a green tag, which shows everything that what is recyclable and recoverable. So we were in the Kenwood Drive area. So it was really nice, Esplanade in that area in there. So it was really nice to see that interaction between residents, especially when they come out to talk to you about that. Anyway, I just had to tell you that not only does the recycling improve, but it seems like the relationship improves as well.
Yeah, I think that's true, Diane. Thank you. And our part-time employees have mentioned that too. They've actually been kind of excited to share when they have interactions with residents. I don't think they've had a negative interaction. That can happen, but so far they haven't. But people are excited to see what or they may be asking questions, but they are also excited if they've been there already and they want to see if their tag improved. And they, I think what's great is these are, part-time employees, fairly young, and they're very excited to feel that they are making a difference and they can actually see those results because we're tracking it through these statistics. So it's been really fun, and can answer any more questions if you have.
If I could add, Karen, Diane, you guys have done a fantastic job, as well as your people. This has been very successful. And we believe that a lot of this has to do with that, curbside touch and the personality of it. And that's how we feel like that we're connecting with people. So we've been talking about expanding this to other education campaigns, this style of education. So like for people that leave their carts out, for possibly large item, for different things of things that people may put into their garbage can that they shouldn't be putting into their garbage can, yard waste, hazardous materials types things. So we're looking at it making an expansion to this. Time will tell, but this has been a great model for us, and it's been very successful. So just wanted to shout out to Karen and Diane and their team on doing this. So great job, guys.
Yeah, thank you, Karen, Diane. Anything else on that? Any questions on that? Okay, we might make 7 o'clock. Announcements.
The first announcement is that this is annual solid waste report time, and this means that all the license haulers have to report by February 1st, and we have until March 1st to get our lengthy report to the state that covers pretty much everything that goes on in Jefferson County, publicly, privately, recycling wise, yard waste wise, mechanics wise, enforcement wise, education wise. So it's a pretty big undertaking. Generally, we are late, not because we want to be. It's because we are different than most counties out there in everything that we do. So it takes a lot to get things together, and we have a lot of people that report to us, which we use a program that the Waste District pays for called Retrack Connect. So that makes it a little bit easier. So thank you guys for that. And we'll hear about that when we do our annual renewal. The other thing is the next 109 board meeting is February 28th. And same time, 5:30. We have the contract subcommittee, which is going to be Tuesday, February 13th at 3, and the education subcommittee, which is February 13th at 4. And then our next advisory committee is Wednesday, March 20th. So because we're meeting with the committees, we skip a meeting for the advisory committee. So we're trying not to take up so much of the time. So that is the announcements. One other thing, I'm not sure if I think I meant to make this announcement. We want to make sure that we really do appreciate the board members, the outgoing and the new board members, for taking the time to be involved in your community. This is a very important board. Solid waste management, most people don't realize that it touches everybody every week. Look around when you're driving down the road, you'll usually see a solid waste management truck somewhere close by every few minutes. It is a massive undertaking. There's a lot of good people in this industry, and it's important. And thank you for your time in helping us to manage this. So thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Pete. Is there any comments from any members of the public attending the meeting? Okay, hearing none. Thanks, everybody. Welcome the new board members, and I guess we'll see everyone next week. Have a good month.
We have a motion to adjourn.
Oh, yeah, okay, that might help. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a
I
motion to
make a
adjourn.
motion.
We have a motion and a second. So we're adjourned at 7:01.
Thank you, guys.
Bye-bye.
Everybody have a great night.
Thanks, everybody.
Everyone.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everyone.